Today I'm going to be assembling the FlexiSpot EW8. It's a standing desk with a drawer. These are the contents of the package, the way it arrives in Japan, and it's got everything you need to put this together with the exception of this. You're going to need your own screwdriver, and this is a Phillips head screwdriver. It's got the X or the plus sign on top. So for step one, we're going to connect these three pieces. What we're going to do is take this rubbery white end and connect it to that piece. And then we're going to take this other end here that has nothing on it and put it in that hole. It would be a good idea to lay out your pieces this way so that you have this piece with the motor, this black thing, up in the top left. And then the one that doesn't have the motor is over here on the right. So for the first part of step one, we just want to take this end of the propeller shaft and slide it into this hole right here. So just rotate it so that it lines up. It's a hexagon shape. And then just apply some pressure. And it should slide in around 1.5 to 2 inches. So for the second half of step one, we're going to take the other end and just slide these two rubbery parts together. If the orientation doesn't match perfectly, you may have to rotate this piece slightly so that they fit together. And just apply a little bit of pressure, and they should slide together fairly easily. So at this point, you should have something that looks like this. And if you do, you're ready to attach this beam right here. It's going to go somewhere like this. And you're going to attach that using these screws labeled with the letter A. There's 4 of them. And you'll screw those in using this Allen key labeled with the letter F. So just a note about the orientation of this beam. You're going to want this side with these 2 big holes facing towards the ceiling. You don't want these 4 smaller holes. Also, you want this open end and this rubber piece right here to be facing this way. Something like this. So once you have these in the right position, you can then just take your screws, drop them in here, and screw them in. So the next step is just to turn this screw, tighten this screw on this end of the propeller shaft. You want it to be flush with the rest of this portion. You don't want it sticking out, and you don't want to set it in too deep. You'll need the smaller Allen key that is also located in section F of the pack of hardware. So there, it's seated flush. It's not inset too deeply. It's not sticking out. So you should have something that looks like this now. And for step 4, we're going to attach these 2 support pieces to the top corners of the desk. So one piece goes there, and the other piece goes here. It'll be attached to something like this. I'll show you in detail in just a second. And to attach those, you will need the screws labeled B. And again, you'll need this Allen key. Note that at this point, you're going to have to stand up the portion of the frame that you've already built. So stand it up carefully and just be careful not to knock it down so you don't scratch your floor. So as I mentioned, we're going to attach this support beam on top like this. But I just wanted to point something out about the orientation of this part. So these holes are not centered. So there's a shorter end here relative to the holes, and then there's a long end here relative to the holes. We want to have this short end on the same side as this beam that we just attached, like this. So let's go ahead and attach this now. Again, we need the screws labeled B. You're going to need 2 of them. And then you're going to need your Allen key to screw them in. Again, be very careful not to knock down this whole frame. And you can go ahead and tighten that right up at this point. Now let's do the same thing on the other side. So again, we want this short side relative to these holes pointing towards this beam. So you should have something that looks like this now. And if so, you're ready to move on to step 5. So for step 5, we're going to attach these feet on the other end of this. Something like that. And we're going to be using the screws labeled with the letter C in the pack of hardware. And again, we're going to use the Allen key that was labeled F. To do this step, you're going to have to flip over the frame that we've made so far, and then you're going to be resting it on the support beams that we just attached. Note that this side is a lot heavier than this side because the motor is here, so you might want to grab it like this and just lean it forward till it's on the ground, and then pick it up from here and flip it over. And then you can slide it back wherever you want to. All right, so let's go ahead and attach this side first. It doesn't really matter which side you attach first, but I'll go ahead and do this side, the side without the motor. You want this side facing up. Eventually this will be the side that faces down to the ground and touches the ground. Again, a note about the orientation. You see a short side and a long side. You want the long side to match the long side that you set up previously for the support beams. Just make sure it matches the orientation of the support beams. So let's go ahead and screw this in now. So let's do the other side now. Again, match the orientation that you set up in the previous step of the support beam. And then take 4 screws, the ones labeled letter C, and screw these right in. All right, so you should have something that looks like this at this point, and if so, you're ready to move on to step 6, which is really simple. Let me just put this down. What we're gonna do in step 6 is take this little piece, the adapter stand, and attach it to this bar down here. So, you want this part of the hook or the stand to be facing away from the propeller shaft. So just lift this up a little bit and plop it down there. It just fits onto this bar. All right, so at this point you have this adapter stand hooked on to this beam, and the whole thing should look something like this. And you're ready to move on to step 7, which is to take this whole stand and now attach it to this desktop. To complete this step, you're going to need these screws labeled D. There's 10 of them. And you're also going to need a screwdriver. You should notice that on the desktop, on the underside of the desktop, there are holes ready to accept the screws. So there's 2 in this corner, 2 in that corner. There are 2 in the center, so 1 there, and 1 there, and then 2 more in each of the other corners. So go ahead and carefully pick up the stand that you've assembled so far and just plop it on top of the desk in roughly the right spot. It is pretty heavy, so be careful. And if this little thing comes off, it's just plastic, just put it back again. Just a note on the order that you should screw these screws in. The manual suggests that you do the outside screws first. So 4 over here, and then you can come around and do 4 over here. And once you've done all the outside screws, then finally come back and do the 2 center screws. So just take a second to line up the holes. You should be able to see them through here. So I can see the holes in the desk through here. Line those up and then take your screws labeled D and screw them in with your screwdriver. I'm going to keep them a little bit loose at first until I have them all partially screwed in, and then I'll go back and tighten them all up. So for step 8, what we're going to do is install this cover over the propeller shaft. So there are 3 screw holes here, and you're going to install this cover something like this. And to do that, you're going to use your final set of 3 screws labeled E, and you're going to need the smaller of the 2 Allen keys that was also labeled F. So when you install this cover over the propeller shaft like this, I would suggest you start at the end closer to this end of the propeller shaft, close to the motor. You want to make sure that this hole in this cover lines up in this way, so that the hole in the beam that you're going to screw into is right at the end of this opening, so that this piece of plastic doesn't hit that piece. After you install this first screw here, you should find that the other 2 pieces line up just fine. So for step 9, we just need to attach the adapter to the adapter stand. So here's the adapter stand that we attached in an earlier step. Now we're going to take the adapter itself, which is this black box with a little cable coming out of one side, and it's got an opening here to accept another cable. We're going to just slide it into the adapter stand like this. All right, so for the first part of step 10, we want to attach some cables together. We need this cable that looks like this. It's got 2 different ends. One is this white plastic end. It looks like this. And the other is this 2-pronged end that's got a big prong and a small one. So this end we're going to work with right now. And this attaches to this piece of cable coming out of the adapter. So this cable coming out of the adapter has a big hole and a small hole to match this big prong and small prong. So just attach those together. Just give them a good push. And then on the back, there's this latch. And the cable you just attached has these little nubs that will fit into the latch. So just close down this latch onto those nubs so that those two things can't come apart anymore. So after you've attached these two pieces together, this cable with the adapter, you're going to want to take the other end, the white end here, and you need to attach it over there. So there's a plastic piece here that has 4 little holes that will match this pattern of this piece, which has 4 plastic squares that fit right in there. There's also a hook that should be pointing down to match this opening here. And just push that in there. Okay, coming back to the adapter. So we now want to attach something to the other end of this adapter here. So we're going to take this part that has a regular plug, and then it's got this type of connection here. And this connection matches the back of the adapter, which we showed earlier. So all we have to do is take this end here and plug it into the back side of this adapter. And just give it a good push. All right, so coming back towards this end where the motor is and where this box is, where we plugged in the other cable, we now have to attach this cable that's connected to the motor. So it's got an opening like this, or it's got an end like this. It's got 6 little squares. And then you can see here, there is a little portion that accepts this exact configuration. So you just want to take this end to this wire, to this cable, and put it right in here. And again, there's a hook at the bottom that slips into that hole. So just give it a good push. So the last part of step 10 is just to manage the cables. The instructions don't mention how exactly to route the cables, but they do provide these clips with an adhesive backing, so you can manage them however you'd like. So if you've made it this far, then the last remaining step is just to flip the table over and plug it in. But I'm actually going to do one more thing because I bought casters for this table. So let's go ahead and switch the feet out right now for the new casters. So here you can see the original feet that come with the desk, and they just screw right out. So I'm going to screw this one out. And here's the caster, or one of the casters that I bought, and you just screw that right back in. Now it's time for step 11, which is to flip it over. I'm going to use these 2 pieces of styrofoam that came packed with this desk, just to make sure I don't scratch my floors. I'm just going to hop over to the side now. I'm going to grab the desk from the front here and start flipping it over. The casters are digging directly into the foam, so I'm really glad to put those down. Turn the casters to the side. You couldn't see it on camera, but that foam really saved me right now. Now I'm going to reach under here and lift again. All right, there we go. Let's get this one caster off the styrofoam. There we go, we're rolling. Beautiful. Awesome. That's actually the back side of the desk. So let's get this out of the way. And let's spin it around. There we go. That's the finished FlexiSpot desk. And let's untape the drawer. There we go. We'll pull out the drawer now. Awesome. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've plugged in the desk. And this is the real moment of truth. Let's press this button. There we go. Move it up. That's already way too high for me. Let's move it down. Bottom's out there at 73.5. Perfect. All right, so that's the end of assembling the FlexiSpot EW8. I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. Thanks.